Good morning. This week I saw a story online about Albert Einstein. As the story goes, one day he walked into the classroom, he walked up to the board and began writing a series of very simple equations. 9 times 1 equals 9. 9 times 2 equals 18. 9 times 3 equals 27. Continued through the sequence. 9 times 8 equals 72. 9 times 9 equals 81. Finally, 9 times 10 equals 91. The classroom erupted in laughter. The great Einstein had made a mistake. Everyone knows that 9 times 10 equals 90, not 91. So he waited for the classroom to settle down. And then he said to them, "When I got 9 equations right, none of you congratulated me. But when I missed 1, you all mocked me and laughed at me." And what this shows us is that even the most successful people, society will recognize and remember their tiniest mistake. So do not let criticism derail your ambitions. The only people who have never made a mistake are those who did not try. The story reminded me of the parable of the talents in the New Testament. We all know the story. The master is getting ready to leave on a long journey, and before he leaves, he calls 3 of his slaves in. He gives one talent, he gives one 2 talents, and he gives one 5 talents. And it says that he gives these to them according to their abilities. And then he leaves. And when he leaves, the one with 5 talents goes out and he works and he turns it into 5 more talents. The one with 2 talents does exactly the same thing and is able to double his. And then finally, the one with only 1 talent goes and buries it and hides it in a field. So when the master comes back, the one with 5 talents goes to him excitedly and says, "Look, master, I took your 5, I turned it into 10. Here, I've given all of this back to you." And the master says, "Well done, good and faithful servant. Go on to your reward." The one with 2 talents does exactly the same thing. "Look what I've done." He says, "Good for you. Go on to your reward." And finally, he turns to the one with 1 talent. He says, "Master, I knew you were a man who's very demanding, so I was afraid, and I went and I buried the talent." And the master says, "You're an unfaithful servant. You could have at least put it in the bank and gotten interest, but you decided to do nothing with it. So therefore, there's no reward for you." You know, both the Einstein story and the parable of the talents are parables about fear, about how we can be paralyzed by fear of criticism, fear of being mocked, or fear of failure. And the fact is, the Bible is very clear that we should not be people who are ruled by fear. Very early on, Moses says to Joshua, "Be strong and courageous. Don't be afraid, because the Lord is with you and will go before you." Later on, David says almost exactly those same words to Solomon. "Be strong and courageous. Don't be afraid. God will be with you." Very late in the New Testament, Paul is encouraging his young protege, Timothy, and he says, "God didn't give us a spirit of timidity, but one of power, of love, of self-discipline." And finally, the Hebrew writer says, "We aren't of those who shrink back and are destroyed, but we are of those who live in faith." God has given all of us talents, some more, some less. He's given them to us according to our ability. And it may not just be talents, it may be resources, it may be opportunities, but he asks us to do something with them, to not be people who are paralyzed by fear, either the fear of criticism of others or the fear of failure, but to be people who are good and faithful servants, expanding what he has given to us. That's true for us as individuals. It's true for us in our churches. It's true for us in our work life. It's true for us in our families and how we raise our children. We should be people of courage, people of opportunity, people who are seeking to live in faith. This week, I encourage you to take stock of what God has given you and determine how you can best use it to multiply it, to expand it, to live in power and love and faith. Have a great week.